So hey guys, making this videos to basically talk about how you could actually convince your parents, well, about the things you do, about a lot of things in life, because I just came across a conversation with my parents and uh, I'm trying to do something like this as well, right? But the short answer is after all this year, I could never actually convince them. But you do actually wonder why I'm still making this video even I couldn't convince them. First of all, it's because I have kind of a technique to make them understand where I am, what I think about this, and a lot of these things I'm going to say later in this video. So to starting off in the beginning, I'm going to kind of story you about like how things can turn out for me in a lot of my life situations. So since I was really young, I wouldn't say I have a lot of unconventional ideas and stuff like this, but my parents has always give me suggestion per se, but this suggestion sometimes kind of feels very forceful, and I really don't like them. I really don't like how all this suggestion is for my life. And at one point in my life, whenever my parents say about A, I would try to do B, or I would try to do C, to just be different from what they suggested, right? So one of the examples basically, before I got into college, I actually wanted to study computer science, but because my parents were saying like, because that's one time basically I was like driving back home with my mom in my car, we kind of have a discussion, and uh, I'm talking about during that time I was really interested in economics, which I am still now, and I talked about it to her that I'm actually looking to studying econs, and she has a very big reaction to it and start to tell me like why studying econ couldn't make you money and stuff like this, and I should study computer science because that's the better choice, that's the future and everything. And out of spite, that day I decided to not study computer science. But that particular action actually hurts me because I genuinely love and hope to actually study computer science. But because of the stubbornness that I have to just be different from what they say, I decide not to do that. But also because of fearful that I would hurt my parents. Eventually, I didn't go to study cons. I studied something that is kind of acceptable for me and for her as well, which is a law degree. But that caused a very big problem in our relationship because I was constantly in pain, not able to make the decision I love the most. And she's the same, because once you have a wound, it's suddenly very, very hard for you to heal that wound in this relation. And over time, no matter what I do in my life, going to travel a lot decision, we would always have arguments because of it. So it's kind of funny, but how I managed to basically cut through this problem is, well, we have a lot of arguments even till today, but how I managed to really change my perspective on trying to please them or trying to convince them either way, it's one extreme to the other. It's one day when we went back to our hometown, my mom was talking to her sisters, which is my aunts. So they've been talking about like when they're younger, what they do and everything. And they've been talking about this particular story where my mom was so stubborn that she did opposite of the things that her parents say. And at a point, it really clicked to me that my mom is not that different from me, and probably my stubbornness is derived from them. And so I try to really dive down to understand why do they actually think like that afterwards, right? And I think it's pretty much a lot of people kind of know this already, but a lot of times parents, they want you to live the way they say because they scared you got into situation that would hurt you. They wanted to protect you, but this matter of like protecting you actually hurts you more. And a lot of times, I think after speaking to my friends and a lot of people, I realized that a lot of them who are parents right now that is doing this thing, during their whole child life, they faced similar thing and they did similar action as well. So from understanding that, I have a new way of dealing with this. I have a very resolved understanding this is the way. And from that day on, for a lot of like communication with my mom, or even like when she pick up on a certain decision I did and question me or try to force a decision in, I no longer actually avoid her or try to fight back with her or anything, but I stand firm on my foot. I actually think of a question seriously because sometimes it's good advice, but after thinking through, and if I want to stand firm on my particular decision, I will stand firm and explain to her why I'm doing that. And I think a lot of you might face a situation where basically they wouldn't listen to you, but hear me out right here that it takes time. It's a very long process for your parent to start really listening to you. The way to really get through it is to constantly for you to express your personal ground to them and really bring them in to have to listen, to actually listen to you. And so I did that, and from that day onwards, I could see the quality of conversation I have with my mom basically increased. We talk more, we have more understanding of each other, and right now, even to today, just now, that's why I'm making this video, we have a conversation of my own startup and the way I'm doing it. And she kind of thinks it's too risky because like the way I'm doing it is like raising funds and try to run this up, try to build something impossible. But she's worried about my personal well-being and everything, and the stress level I will get from doing this. So she tried to convince me out of it. But I stayed my ground and why I'm doing this and my personal belief. And afterwards, she just said that she couldn't do anything else for me except for praying for me. And I understand that. I say I appreciate her prayings. I appreciate everything she did for me in my whole life. I appreciate her care. But this is really something I need to do and I want to do. It might actually cost me suffer. It might actually cost me a lot of things, but I probably would suffer more if I don't actually do it. So I tell her that and let her understand this is my life. I think letting your parents to understand that this is your life, you're going to stand firm with your decision, whatever you want to do, is very, very important. And yeah, with that, it basically concludes my whole pep talk right here. But yeah, I think having to convince your parents or not convincing your parents is actually a non-matter, because convincing someone is actually something that's very hard to do. You couldn't really do it most of the time. Some people could do it. My parents are actually very supportive in my life, so even they are very supportive in their way, there's still sometimes I do this. So I could imagine that there's people that face situation a lot more harder than me. But in my personal experience, I think you don't really need to convince them. You just need to show them that you have your life to live, they have their life to live. Worrying is a very natural symptom to do, but it doesn't do you well as a person as well, and your mental as well. You would be putting a lot of your stress if you're constantly thinking the well-being of others. I think in our generation, it's very important for us to actually realize that we need to take care of our own well-being. And also the second thing is that by me saying not able to convince is because of difference in value, and specifically this day where we have a lot of like different information that available for us to access through the internet. We would have a very distinct view compared to our parents, compared to them with their parents. And yeah, and older generations, because when the information is much more, we grow in a way that they can't really expect. So that's basically what I want to talk today. I made this video specifically because of Hamza. I just watched this video on making video and then one of the things he says is basically to make video in 24 hours. So I make this video, and I hope it actually helps you in your life when you face a similar situation. Thank you.